Alright guys, pardon me for the delay. I'm trying to set up the angles on this. Let's see if I can zoom in. There we go. So I don't have anybody with me here, so it's just a matter of how I can set things up to hopefully make everything visible for you. Alright, so if I keep everything lined up with respect to the hive, you should be able to see anything that I bring out to show you. So I've been told that the bees tend to get a little more defensive with the heat, and specifically with what's called the dearth. And yes, I'm trying to wear a hat over a hat if I can make it work, because this one that I've been wearing, it's hot today. I've got a sweatband that is not well coordinated with the shirt I'm wearing. It's just what I found. I've got my old floppy hat that's really absorbent of moisture, and then I've got this plastic hat above it, the veil above it. So often with my inspections, I'm keeping it really simple. I'm just looking to make sure the queen is still alive and the queen is still laying, and we've got good numbers, and in terms of the number of bees that seem to be there. And I try not to disturb them a lot. It's been a while since I've done a really thorough inspection of every frame, and so I think this is the week that I need to do that, especially because at the end of this inspection I need to make a determination as to whether this frame has any resources, should they be needed, that it can spare for the sake of my second colony, which was a colony that I did a cutout on. Took it out of a utility box in the yard of a friend, and I now have it in a cobbled together hive in my backyard. Their final home has arrived. I need to paint it, put some of the finishing fixtures on it, and then move that colony. But it's small and doesn't have the weeks of buildup that this one has, and so later on I'll do an inspection of it and see what's needed. Right off the bat, I want to call out that it looks like the edges, I think the heat is making it more susceptible. This one may need a little touch-up paint on the top. Just looking at the condition of the hive before I go into it. All right. So here we go. Okay. Now, I'm looking to see what the bees are doing. I put down a Swiffer sheet to catch small hive beetles, and it has caught a few of them. Unfortunately, it's also caught the feet. Oh, there's a small hive beetle. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. All right. Squish him. He's done for. So it's also caught a few bees. So I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to keep using the Swiffer sheets. We'll see. Put that back down there. All right. So now I'm going to move the divider board. few inches to give us some room. In the bottom and on the divider board, I see a number of bees. Alright, so let's start with the frames. This is the one that I have numbered 11. And it previously had no comb really drawn out on it. And it still doesn't. So it's just available as extra space that they can grow into when they're ready. All right, this is frame 10. And this was inserted on May 30th. So just since May 30th, they have started drawing this one out. It used to be just like the previous one. Now, inside this, looks like it's all where they've started using it, it's all nectar, which is about what I would have expected from the position that it's in. So put those two out there, and now I've got a nice big area of space so that the rest of them, I don't have to separate so much. All right, this is frame 9. All right, it's definitely one that has some weight. It's almost entirely nectar. I'm very encouraged. I've seen on some of my beekeeping Facebook groups lots of people talking about seeing these combs just melt away, just collapse in the center as the heat weakens the structure of the comb. I'm not seeing any tendency towards this. This one is about 1/4 capped honey on this side. I don't know how close I can get there. And at the bottom, they're still storing nectar. I see a little bit of pollen here and there, but mostly it's nectar that's going to become honey. And this side isn't capped yet, but they're using it in the same way, just for nectar. So this answers one question that I had, and that is, do I need to start feeding these bees because of what we call the dearth? And at this point, the amount of nectar that they have continues to grow, which tells me that they are still finding additional nectar, probably not in the quantities that they were 2 weeks ago, but at least in this last week, they've still been adding to the quantity there. This next one looks like it's going to be more of the same, but we'll see for sure once we get it out. Okay, on this side, about 1/3 of the distance of the frame and about 1/2 of the part that's built out is capped honey. Below that, there's some pollen and some nectar. And they're still building this one out. And on this side, this again is frame 8. Slightly less, maybe 1/4 of the space of the frame in capped honey, and the rest they're using for some pollen and nectar storage. So we'll show you guys this. There's one side, and there's the other side. And that's looking really good. Really encouraging to me. Now, I haven't gotten into the brood chamber. And the last few times, that's when, if they're going to get annoyed with me, that's when it starts. They're usually pretty docile while I'm just working on their resource frames, and that seems to be the case today as well. So I'm going to, since they're not swarming the top here, I'm going to push these tightly together, and that way maybe I can slide them as a group back to the other end when we're done and not risk squishing bees between frames there. All right, this is going to be frame 7. Now, I do see a solitary fire ant on the top here. I need to research more about what problems fire ants can cause in a hive. I've heard that they can. There's that one. Let's see if he come up on the top of the frame, I'll squish him. Missed him. It's my impression that as long as there's small numbers, the bees will handle it. And it's only if there get to be a lot of them that it's a problem. But like I said, I need to talk with some Texas beekeepers and make sure I'm right about that. All right, frame 7. Now, this one has lots of pollen. I think this one was once used for brood. In fact, it does still have a little bit of brood on it. It has honey, and it has pollen and some brood. Now what I'm looking for, first let me scan for the queen. I don't see the queen. What I'm looking for is, is the queen laying eggs? And she has been. She has been here within the last 3 days, and there's a new set of eggs. Although they are also putting a lot of nectar in this frame as well. Now, turn this around. Again, I'm going to check for the queen. Don't see the queen. I do see fresh eggs laid right in the middle and in the bottom of the cells. I see uncapped brood as well as some capped brood. I see lots of nectar, lots of pollen. All right, so frame 7 is a candidate for a frame, depending on how the rest look. It might be a good candidate for me to give to another hive if another hive needs the support. Oh, these bees are just, it's so easy to work with. I've not even felt the need to use the smoke, although I better give it some puffs to keep it lit. Sometimes it has seemed to me that because smoke can be a little bit alarming to the bees, sometimes it seems almost counterproductive. So as long as they're being super docile with me, I'm learning that maybe I don't need to smoke as often as I did. Okay, this is frame 6. Definitely a brood frame. Got a lot of capped brood, a good pattern. By talking about pattern, we're talking about having lots of brood all together. Now you do see some cells that are not brood, and if that were happening in a frame that was brand new for brood, you might worry about that. But I can see the reason that those are not brood is because they've stored nectar in those cells before the queen came to lay. So it's not that the queen was laying spotty brood, it's that the other bees were using it. Now, in this frame, I'd say a half of the space here is capped brood, and a lot more is, I was going to try to estimate the number of bees, but I'm not going to try to do that. A lot more is either uncapped brood in various stages or eggs. Looking like this frame is very, very healthy. There's also resources here to feed the brood on this frame. So I have absolutely no indication that these bees are hurting from what we call the dearth at this point. They seem to have plenty. As far as I can tell, they're still bringing in more. Now on this side, we've got almost an identical pattern. Lots of capped brood, lots of uncapped brood, lots of resources all the way around. I see some freshly laid eggs. I don't see the queen here, but I see so many eggs I don't care. If I don't see the queen this trip, it won't bother me a bit. Okay, now a couple of them are starting to pop my veil. So it may be time to use a little, bit of a little bit of smoke. On the other hand, maybe they're calming right back down. Move, little bee. Yep, I think I still don't need smoke. I love this colony. I know I won't always have this experience as a beekeeper. Sometimes I'll have some that are much more defensive than these. These guys are friendly. All right, frame 5. Virtually identical to the last frame we saw. On this frame, I do see a few drone cells. Not a lot, not a problem. Just indicates that they are a healthy colony that anticipates that at some point they're going to need males to fertilize a new queen. All right, looking at the second side here. So many bees on this one. More drone, more capped worker brood, honey, resources. I'm not really going to try to estimate numbers, but this is looking so healthy. I'll just show you. I should also look for the queen. Should have done that before I moved them. I don't see the queen on this side. At some point, they'll probably groom the paint dot off of the queen, and then I'll have to look much more closely to find her than I have in previous videos. I don't see her here, but she's been here. So it looks to me like my queen is consistently working about 7 frames of brood, which is about what I thought, and I'm thinking that's probably just about optimal for this size frame and this size hive. One way or the other, don't want to squeeze you. All right. Next is frame 4. Okay. This is almost entirely capped brood. When all these bees hatch out, there's going to be a population boom around here. A small number of them are drones. I thought for a minute I might be about to watch a drone hatch, but I think maybe not. There's honey and there's pollen as they need for brood, but it's looking good. And the backside is about the same. Lots and lots of brood. Some honey, some pollen, some drone brood, and some worker brood. Really, really good frame. That's frame 4. There's nothing terribly fascinating to show you here. I've not seen the queen. Wasn't looking hard for her. Now I do see, no, thought I was going to be able to show you a clear example of a drone. Uh-oh. I think I accidentally squeezed one in my grip here, and she's kind of upset. Maybe trying to sting me, but she hasn't found a way yet. We're down to 3, 2, and 1. And then we put them back together and leave them alone for a while. Okay, this frame has some bees that are more defensive. Okay, well, hopefully that will keep them from being very coordinated in any attacks anyway. So as soon as I cracked open the separation between these frames, several of them flew out more intentionally than others. Another brood frame. It's not fully stocked, well, I guess it is. They're in all various stages, and a lot of bees on this frame. So I think there's a lot of bees here that seem really reluctant to move away and not flying, and I'm thinking that indicates that a lot of the bees on these frames may be newly hatched, and they're acting right now as nurse bees. They're not ready to fly. Some of them clearly can, but not all of them. So that's why we've got so many bees on the frame. Just show you real quick. We've got capped honey at the top, capped brood, various types of brood, and more here. That's frame 3. So you've noticed so far that every frame since frame 7 has been focused on brood. Every frame after frame 7 has been, if not exclusively, at least predominantly nectar and honey. All right, frame 2. Heavy frame. A lot of bees. Okay, honey at top. Nectar, pollen. I'm a little surprised that this is not more brood. Looks like a tiny bit of brood. They're largely making this a resource frame, it appears. Let me look at this side. Still have some brood. Yeah, this side, well, they're doing the same. They're packing it full of pollen and honey at the top, and it looks like the only brood that's there has been there for a while. So it seems like maybe the queen has moved either to frame 1 or to those frames between 3 and 7 where there's a lot more laying going on, and they're using this for resources. All right, we're down to the last frame. Okay, frame 1. Same thing, it's largely being converted to resources, it appears. May still be a little bit of brood on it. There is still, yeah, there's still a little bit of brood. Lots of honey, lots of pollen. Now let me look at the other side. All right, and there's some uncapped brood here, not a lot, but a little, and lots of resources. I'm going to be more gentle with this frame because it looks like it may have started to pull away from the wires there. So I'm going to be careful not to cause it to collapse. All right, did not see the queen this visit. Doesn't surprise me because there's a lot of bees on the sides. And I think they're doing that instead of bearding. Now bearding is something that the hives do often in the summer. It's when the interior of the hive gets so hot that it's not healthy for the brood. And they'll do a lot of fanning to circulate the air, but they also will remove themselves from over the brood. When it's cooler, and cooler meaning when the brood is below 95, they'll cover the brood with their bodies to keep them warm. But when it gets warmer, and they don't need to do that, they will leave and either hang on the outside of the hive or on other interior walls in order not to overheat the brood. I'm going to use a little smoke just to try to get them to leave the crevices between the frames so that I can close it up. Alright, and we'll put these two frames back. And then we'll put this back. make sure they have just a little bit of room to get out of the main body of frames and back into this open space so that they can control temperatures. And that is about all I need to do for today. So put my hive tool back here, put the lid back on, and let them enjoy the rest of their day. So what did I learn? Well, I learned that they're not hurt by the dearth yet. We'll have to keep an eye on that because they really have enough resources so that it will at least, in my inexperienced estimate, it will at least last them probably through the dearth. And then I'll have to assess, will they last, do they have enough resources at that point to last through the winter? It's possible that I'd get them, that they'd get through the dearth, and then I'll have to feed to get them ready for winter. I'm not sure whether I'd rather feed in the dearth and not feed in the fall, or not feed now and feed them in the fall if they need it. So I'll talk to, maybe Rick will be watching or somebody and give me some input on that. But for now, I don't think they need to be fed. Other thing I learned is I'm really comfortable with the strength of this hive. And because they're on 7 frames of brood, and a lot of them are ready to hatch out now, I think the population looks good. I think if I have to, and I don't want to do it if I don't have to, but if I have to, I think I could spare one frame of honey and 1 frame of brood to help my other colony get going well. So that's what we've learned, and I guess that's it. Thanks for watching.